Columbus, Ohio, the night of March 31st, 2006. Spring had just begun, but the air remained chilly, and the city was blanketed in a thin veil of mist. Downtown Columbus was alive with energy, bars filled with music, laughter, and the carefree spirit of a Friday night. One of the most popular spots was a bar with a quirky name, Ugly Tuna Saloona. That night, 27-year-old Brian Shaffer, a promising medical student, was ready to celebrate the start of spring break with his friends. Brian was more than just intelligent and ambitious. He had charm, charisma, and an infectious smile. He was deeply in love with his girlfriend, Alexis, and had plans to propose to her during their upcoming vacation. To those who knew him, Brian was the kind of person who lit up any room he walked into. At 9 p.m., Brian and his friends stepped into Ugly Tuna Saloona. The bar was packed, the music blaring, the energy electric. It was just another weekend night, identical to hundreds before it. Or at least, it seemed that way, because this night would not be like any other. At 1:15 a.m., the bar's security cameras recorded Brian standing near the entrance. He was smiling, chatting, completely at ease. Nothing seemed out of place. But then, something impossible happened. When the night ended, Brian was nowhere to be found. His friends searched for him inside the bar. No sign of him. They assumed he had left early or gone home alone. But when morning came, Brian was still missing. Investigators reviewed the security footage. The cameras showed Brian entering the bar, but they never recorded him leaving. There was only one entrance and exit, and yet Brian had vanished into thin air. A crowded bar, a city full of people, a place with modern surveillance cameras, and yet Brian Shaffer had disappeared without a trace, never to be seen again. The next day, Saturday, April 1st, 2006, as the morning sunlight gradually spread across the city of Columbus, Brian's friends woke up with a sense of unease and confusion. Brian's girlfriend, Alexis, who was supposed to go on a special trip with him the following day, suddenly found herself unable to contact him. She called repeatedly, but all she got was a ringing tone that eventually went to voicemail. At first, she thought Brian might still be asleep after a fun night out with his friends, but as the hours passed with no word from him, Alexis began to truly worry. Not only Alexis, but also Brian's friends from the previous night started to realize something was wrong. They hadn't seen Brian after a certain point in the night, but they assumed he might have left early on his own or gone with someone else. It was only when Alexis reached out to each of his friends and discovered that no one had actually seen Brian leave the bar that panic truly set in. Immediately, the Columbus police were notified of this unusual disappearance. Detectives quickly arrived at Ugly Tuna Saloona, the last place Brian had been seen. Investigators began a thorough investigation, reviewing every second of surveillance footage recorded at the bar. Initially, they hoped the cameras would help them quickly uncover a lead. But as soon as they played back the recordings, their confusion and disbelief grew stronger than ever. The footage clearly showed Brian Shaffer walking into the bar at 1:15 a.m. But the strangest and most unsettling detail was that there was no footage whatsoever of Brian leaving the premises. The bar had only one main entrance and exit, and every other possible exit was covered by security cameras. Yet somehow Brian had completely vanished without leaving a single trace. The police immediately launched an urgent search effort. They combed through the entire surrounding area, from small alleys to nearby streets, hoping to find any clue or personal belonging that might lead to Brian. K-9 units, helicopters, and even volunteers were deployed in full force to assist in the search. But every effort ended in frustration. There were no clues, no footprints, no evidence at all that could indicate what had happened to Brian Shaffer. News of the mysterious disappearance spread rapidly across Columbus and soon the entire country. Newspapers and television networks covered the story extensively, describing it as an unexplainable vanishing in a crowded and supposedly safe location. Everyone asked the same question: how could a young, healthy man like Brian simply disappear in a place filled with people, with multiple security cameras monitoring every corner? At that moment, the Columbus police faced one of the greatest challenges of their careers, solving a case that even the most seasoned detectives had never encountered before. A man had vanished into thin air right in the middle of a packed bar, a place where every single movement was recorded on surveillance. Behind this bizarre disappearance was undoubtedly a massive mystery, and the tense, tangled investigation had only just begun. Facing increasing pressure from the public and the victim's family, investigators decided to meticulously review every possible lead, no matter how small. They interrogated everyone who had been at Ugly Tuna Saloona that night, hoping to find someone who might have witnessed something unusual happening to Brian. Brian's friends, Clint Florence and Meredith Reed, were summoned multiple times, with their statements scrutinized repeatedly in search of even the slightest inconsistency. Yet, they all insisted that they had no idea when Brian had left the bar, let alone why he had vanished so mysteriously. Surveillance footage was once again examined with extreme precision. Detectives spent hours in front of the screens, rewinding and replaying every frame to ensure that no detail, no matter how minor, was overlooked. They clearly saw Brian entering the bar, talking with friends, drinking beer, laughing and enjoying the night. And then, in just a matter of seconds, Brian stepped out of frame and never reappeared. No other camera in the area captured any trace of him leaving. The case quickly captured the attention of experts and seasoned investigators across the United States. Various theories emerged, ranging from logical explanations to bizarre and nearly unbelievable possibilities. Some speculated that Brian had suffered an accident or had been attacked inside the bar, and that his body had been hidden somewhere. The police had yet to search. Others believed that Brian had deliberately disappeared, seeking to escape the pressures of medical school and start a new life elsewhere. Some even suggested supernatural forces or a shadowy conspiracy behind his inexplicable disappearance. Brian Shaffer's family never stopped searching. His father, Randy Shaffer, along with Brian's girlfriend Alexis, tirelessly distributed missing person flyers across surrounding areas. They appeared on television programs, sharing Brian's story in the hope that someone, somewhere might provide the clue they so desperately needed to solve this heartbreaking mystery. Their relentless efforts kept the case in the public eye, but they also prolonged the family's agony with no closure in sight. Then, just as the investigation seemed to be reaching a complete dead end, an unexpected event occurred, one that reignited a small yet invaluable glimmer of hope. A few months after Brian's disappearance, his phone unexpectedly called Alexis. She was startled, and when she picked up, all she heard was eerie silence on the other end. When police traced the call, they discovered that it had originated from a cell tower on the outskirts of Columbus, not far from the city. Despite their best efforts to search the surrounding areas, they found no trace of Brian or his phone. No one knew whether the mysterious call was a sign from Brian, a technical glitch, or simply a cruel twist of fate that deepened the already unbearable pain. The investigation dragged on with no answers. Even the most experienced detectives were left baffled by what had become one of the strangest disappearances they had ever encountered. Brian Shaffer seemed to have vanished into the cold darkness of Columbus, leaving behind only unanswered questions, his case becoming one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history. In the years that followed, the case of Brian Shaffer gradually reached a deadlock. The Columbus police had exhausted every possible resource, searching far and wide, yet they were unable to uncover a single trace. Brian seemed to have disappeared entirely, as if he had never existed at all. No body, no suspicious evidence, and even the tips provided by the public turned out to be vague rumors, impossible to verify. But the Shaffer family never gave up hope. Brian's father, Randy Shaffer, relentlessly continued his search, appearing on television programs, making heartfelt pleas to the public. The sight of an aging father, growing wearier with each passing day, his eyes filled with sadness and desperation, left many deeply moved. Brian's girlfriend, Alexis, never stopped believing that Brian was still alive. She frequently shared emotional messages on social media, leaving hopeful notes as if Brian might one day read them and come home. During this time, many claimed to have seen Brian Shaffer in different locations. Some swore they had spotted him wandering the streets or living in distant towns, but each time police followed up, the leads turned out to be false alarms, adding to the family's sorrow and the public's growing sense of helplessness. From this case, countless theories emerged. Some private investigators suggested that Brian may have staged his own disappearance to escape the pressures of his life. Others speculated that he had unknowingly stumbled into a dangerous situation, forcing him to vanish completely. And then, there were the more outlandish theories, that Brian's disappearance defied all logic, involving something supernatural beyond human understanding. In 2008, 2 years after Brian vanished, his father, Randy Shaffer, died suddenly in 2020, a mysterious accident. His death only deepened the tragedy, adding yet another heartbreaking chapter to the Shaffer family's suffering. Randy passed away never knowing what had happened to his son, never finding the answers he had spent his final years searching for. Many believed that the sheer exhaustion and heartbreak of those desperate years had contributed to his untimely death. To this day, the disappearance of Brian Shaffer remains one of the most baffling missing person cases in modern American history. No one knows where he went, what truly happened to him on that fateful night, or whether he might ever return. But one thing is certain: this story will forever haunt all those who have heard it, serving as a chilling reminder of life's fragility and the unsettling mysteries that may never be solved. Over the years, the mysterious disappearance of Brian Shaffer has faded into an eerie silence, but it has never been forgotten. While his case no longer dominates the headlines as it once did, it remains one of the most debated and unsettling mysteries on online forums and within communities fascinated by unsolved cases. Brian's story is not just about a man who vanished without a trace. It has become a symbol of our deepest fears, that anyone at any moment could disappear into the unknown, leaving no evidence behind. Investigators have reopened the case multiple times, hoping that time and advancements in forensic technology might finally bring new answers. But the deeper they dig, the more baffling the case becomes. New theories constantly emerge. Some speculate that Brian may have suffered an accident inside the very bar where he was last seen, and that his body was somehow hidden so effectively that it has never been found. Others believe that he may have escaped through a hidden exit, only to meet foul play elsewhere in the city. In 2020, more than 14 years after Brian disappeared, a photo circulated online showing a homeless man in Mexico who bore a striking resemblance to him. His family and friends, desperate for closure, anxiously awaited confirmation, but once again it was another crushing disappointment. The man in the image was not Brian Shaffer. Despite countless theories, the case has seen no real progress. The truth feels more distant than ever, yet the pain of those left behind remains as raw as the day Brian first disappeared. His younger brother, Derek Shaffer, continues to maintain online pages and social media accounts dedicated to keeping Brian's story alive, hoping that one day someone will step forward with a piece of information that finally solves the mystery. 2. This day, Brian Shaffer remains classified as a missing person. In Columbus, Ohio, those who pass by the area where the Ugly Tuna Saloona once stood still whisper about that strange night. His name has become a haunting reminder that even in the most crowded places, under the brightest lights, a person can vanish forever, leaving behind only questions without answers. If you're fascinated by true crime mysteries, join us as we continue to uncover and explore some of the most chilling unsolved cases. Subscribe to Mysterious Cases and stay tuned for more thrilling investigations. Thank you for watching, and remember, every untold story is just waiting to be discovered.